Our next guest is here to weigh in on the business climate in U.S. cities, affordability, and much more. Let's bring in Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson, chairman and president of the Republican Mayors Association, which is convening here in New York City. Mr. Mayor, welcome. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Dallas has a lot of Goldman Sachs employees. It's got an exchange launching. I mean, what's been sort of the driving force there in terms of attracting businesses?
Well, I think it's been a long time in the making. Dallas has been a very pro-business city for a long time. A lot of America's great Fortune 500 companies started there, Southwest Airlines, Texas Instruments, and all. So we've had the big sort of corporate footprint for a long time. That brought some high net worth individuals over time, some wealthy individuals, going back many years. They've got family offices there now, and that has brought a lot of private equity attention, even now some more venture capital attention. And I think that ecosystem really launched what we're calling Y'all Street. A lot of financial institutions have decided they want to have a presence in that part of the United States that's growing so fast, the Sun Belt. I think Dallas is probably the buckle of the Sun Belt. And so I think Goldman Sachs may be making the biggest investment in recent years with I think that investment is closing in on $750 million they're putting into a new campus there, right in the middle of downtown. So it's pretty cool, and it's attracting more and more activity. And I think we had an announcement this morning from Goldman that they're actually going to be an investor in the Texas Stock Exchange along with B of A. So that's going to be pretty cool.
You're the chairman of the Republican Mayors Association. There have been some key events that have happened in the past year or so. A Democrat has won the Miami mayoral race for the first time in 30 years. Two socialist Democrats have won New York City, here in New York City, as well as Seattle. What is going to be the tone at this conference?
Yeah, I think we're talking about how the Republican Mayors Association is going to be very integral to getting the RNC, getting the Republican Party writ large to pay more attention to our cities. I think for a long time, the Republican Party has basically conceded that Democrats are going to be dominant in our major cities and have used them more as foils to talk about. But what we're realizing now is that there are a lot of votes in these cities, and they actually impact the statewide races, and particularly in these swing states, it becomes very important in presidential years. It's going to be important in 2026 in these midterms that we do well in some of these cities. So we're going to have a conversation about where of the 60 to 70 U.S. cities of the top 300 that are going to have an active mayor's race going in 2026, where there's overlap with a key congressional race or something like that, where we want to get involved and get the RNC involved early. Like in Miami, the Democrats were really early to get involved in that race, and it paid off for them. And they outspent us 19-1 in that race, and we can't let that happen anymore.
I got one for you. It feels like there is now open gerrymandering taking place in Texas, open gerrymandering in California. We're just seeing it, and people are pretty straight up about it. How do you think the American public should think about that?
Well, we've been, the term is very old because we've been doing it a long time. It's the mid-decade
right.
gerrymandering that I think that's sort of throwing people off. Normally we do this every 10 years. Now it seems like we're perpetually in redistricting mode and gerrymandering mode. So we've always done it, but I think the frequency that we're doing it is maybe off-putting to people. But look, the reality is the political party in power has always wanted to preserve their power, and it's nothing new. It's not unique to the Republicans or the Democrats. In blue states, like Massachusetts, where I went to college, and places like New York, you see a representation in their congressional ranks that doesn't necessarily actually perfectly reflect the percentage of Republicans they have in the electorate. So this isn't really a new thing, but we're doing it a lot more frequently, and it'll be interesting to see how much tolerance the American people have for it.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you is what you're seeing you talk about affordability constantly, and what you're seeing with your own constituents right now as people think about that. I was with the Treasury Secretary a couple weeks ago, and he said that folks, if you want to get out of states that have inflation, he said, you should get out of the blue states, go to the red states. I don't know if you think it's more affordable where you are right now than it is in other places. There's some evidence, at least looking backwards, that there's actually been more inflation, interestingly, in some of the red states, Florida and the like. By the way, I was just in Austin. Prices are going up because a lot of people are moving there.
Yeah.
You know, it's objectively more affordable in Dallas compared to cities of comparable size, but I do think that the affordability issue, what people are calling affordability, is one I've been giving some thought to because it's going to be relevant going forward for the Republican Party. Because here's what I think is not being said a lot. When we talk about affordability, I think to a certain degree people are forgetting that we do live in a free market economy, at least
right.
Ostensibly, and prices of things are determined by the market. Supply and demand determines the price of things. But there's this growing feeling that maybe government can or should be playing a greater role in setting prices. And I think that, to me, is a little bit concerning. And I think in New York, the election of a socialist as the mayor who campaigned on, oh, things are expensive, I'll make them less expensive for you. Let me fix that for you. Let me set the price of housing for you. Let me fix the price of childcare for you. Even if I recall, let me fix the price of groceries for you. Let me open some stores and set the price of groceries. That's sounding a lot like a command economy and like you want to get involved in setting the prices of things as opposed to letting the market do it. And I think Republicans have to be very careful about how we respond in this environment because if we go down that road, I think that we're sort of playing into the socialist game here. And if we don't, we appear not to be sensitive to the issue. So I think we got to talk more about how the way you lower the price of housing is increasing the supply of housing. You permit more efficiently and you make it easier to do business. You increase the supply of housing and that pushes the price of housing down. It's not by telling everyone, oh, well, I think I know what the price of a house ought to be. I mean, what's next? I mean, we're just going to determine what the price of an automobile should be. We're going to determine what the price of clothing should be. It's just not the way it works. I mean, unless we really start tacking down that path of socialism, which apparently some people want to do. I mean, I think it's a generational thing, too.